Welcome to the Billable Mom Podcast, led by attorney Cari Rincker, where we discuss working motherhood, but especially geared to professional mothers who are trying to juggle their time. Our time is precious, both at work and at home. We talk time management and productivity hacks, the struggles of being a working parent, and provide a community where other Billable Moms are also trying to calm the chaos 6 minutes at a time. Listen to stories of other working moms, but especially lawyer moms. Navigate the waters balancing career and the ever-present demands of motherhood.
Hi, I'm Cari Rincker. I'm the Billable Mom, and I know I always say this, but today I am especially excited to interview Emily Donohoe from Pixels Photography. In way of background, I met Emily way back when I was pregnant with my first. I literally was looking for a maternity photographer. I had a belly bump and people around me were asking for photos and I just didn't want to take them myself. And so I literally Googled maternity photographs, and that's how I found Emily. And that's how she entered my life, and we've been friends ever since, and also fellow business entrepreneurs. So Emily, introduce ourselves to our listeners. Let us know who you are and maybe just a brief background of your path to becoming a professional mother.
I am Emily Donohoe. I own Pixels by Emily in Mahomet, Illinois. We started in Champaign about 10 and a half years ago, and we moved out to Mahomet about a year and a half ago. I started actually as a CPA in public practice. I was there for 11 or 12 years, and it was never really my passion, and I didn't have a passion. I actually got my husband through his PhD program, also in accounting. And the deal was I would get him through, and then I would be able to leave public accounting. And so I stayed at home with our only child until he was about 4, and at that point needed desperately to get back out with adults and back in the workforce. But I didn't feel good at anything, and I didn't want to go back to accounting, so I didn't know what I was going to do. And I took a photography class at the Springer Center, the Park District, in the summer. And halfway through that 6-week class, I came home and told my husband I was going to start a photography studio. And that's what we did.
And that's the rest of the story. So, Emily, in hearing your story just a little bit, as an aside, my acupuncturist when I lived in New York City was an attorney for decades of her life. And she now has her own acupuncture practice, and she calls herself a recovering lawyer. And so I feel like in some ways you're a recovering accountant or a recovering CPA. So I'd like to go back in time to when you were pregnant with Nicholas and you were practicing at that point in time, right, as a CPA. So talk us through that chapter of your life.
Well, my husband had finished his dissertation, and so he was headed out onto the job market. And we had said that once he got through that 4th year, that dissertation mark, we were going to try to get pregnant, and we did. And so we were right in step with the timeline that we were hoping for. And so I worked while I was pregnant. I was fine. Had back pain. I've had back issues for a long time, but other than that, I had a really good pregnancy. And I had Nicholas in October, and then my husband went on the job market in late January. And about 3 weeks after Nicholas was born, I had severe postpartum OCD set in. So it was terrifying. It was awful. My husband was gone 4 days a week out of 10 weeks in a row. So we had to tell both of our families what was going on. And God bless all of the moms. They just took turns coming. They both lived about an hour and a half away from us. And so when Michael would have to fly out, one of the moms would drive in. They would stay with me until he got home, and then that one would leave. And then when he would leave again, the next one would come. So that is how we got through that 2.5 months of not a lot of fun.
Yeah. It is such a hard time. And I know that the listeners are aware that I'm a single mom. And after I gave birth to my child, I had planned for my mom to stay for about a week. And then, she didn't leave. I mean, it's really hard to do for one person to take care of a newborn, much less dealing with any kind of postpartum issues. And Emily, if you feel comfortable, I'd like for us to maybe talk a little bit about what you were experiencing postpartum, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of an open book about it because the only periods where I felt any relief were when I talked to someone that had been through it. And it was so bad for so long that there were lots of times I did not think I was going to live through it. And so just coming across one person that I truly believed had walked in my shoes and that they were literally still alive and sitting in front of me gave me hope that I would survive it and that there would be an end to the line of horribleness. I was on medication, multiple medications. I was in therapy. I was with a psychiatrist. I managed to stay out of inpatient care, but it's only because of the support that we had. And, my husband's support, he didn't understand it, but he completely, when I said, oh, there's something wrong and I need help, he said, okay, let's go find it. He didn't say, just, this is normal and just pull it together and think happy thoughts, that it's a chemical imbalance. And all I'd ever wanted to do was be a mom. And so the fact that I was having these horrible thoughts and my heart was racing and I was losing weight, by the day, I couldn't eat. It was awful. I was crying all the time. It was awful.
But sorry to interrupt, but meanwhile,
yeah.
You are going back to work. So
Yes.
You are navigating all this, kind of going back into the workplace. So talk to us about that period of time.
So Nicholas was born the beginning of October. And so I was off for 12 weeks and went back to work at the beginning of January. And as a practicing CPA, that is the beginning of tax season. So it was not just going back to work, but it was going back into full throttle work. And honestly, I think I thought going back to work might help distract me and, help occupy my mind. And because I was so trapped in my mind, and it really didn't. It was, there were lots of days crying at my desk and just feeling like I couldn't go on. I even went into my managing partner and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she looked at me, bless her heart, and she was like, you have a year to go. Or not even, it was like 6 months at that point until we would be moving to wherever Michael got whatever school Michael was going to go to be a professor. She's like, we're going to hold you up. We're going to get you through this and you're going to make it to the end. And we did. I mean, it was very, very trying. It was hard. It was grueling. It was not pretty, but we did get to the end of the line. And in May that year, we left Gainesville and moved here to Champaign.
I so appreciate you talking about that. And I know that Tiffany Dowell-Lashment also talked about her postpartum depression in episode 2 as well. And I just feel like it's such an important topic for women to feel comfortable sharing, because when you're going through something like that, you feel very alone. And like, I'm the only one who's experiencing this. What is wrong with me right now? I just had a beautiful baby, and why aren't I happy right now? And so what advice would you give to any listener who is experiencing that same emotion, or they know somebody who might be?
100% get help. If you feel like if you feel like it's out of control in your mind, it is. Get help. Find a therapist. Go to your GYN or your OB. That's why they ask you those questions every time you go back right after you've had a baby of, how are you feeling? Don't lie on those. If you are feeling empty, if you are feeling scared, if you are feeling sick, if you are having bad thoughts, whatever it is, your body is reacting. I mean, everything in your body has just gone through a complete and utter overhaul, and it is going haywire. And it's okay to need help. And just because you may need some medicinal help temporarily does not mean that it is a forever thing. And even if it is a forever thing, so what? It doesn't matter. If you had diabetes and you went on insulin, it would be no different. It Try to take the shame away from it. And there is no shame in asking for help. It's actually a huge sign of strength.
Yeah, could not agree more. So 6 months later, fast forward, and you do finally move, and talk us through that transition from the workplace from being a CPA.
Okay, well, we moved. All of our family was in Florida. And so we came 1,200 miles from home with an 8-month-old and a wife who was in the full throes of horrible postpartum. So we were away from everyone. And fortunately, we moved here when Michael took the position. 4 other professors started right at the same time as him. They were all far from home. They all had small children. And by the grace of God, the luck of the draw, I don't know, we all moved within a 3-block radius of each other. And so we kind of instantly became a family, and helped each other through hard times. But it was hard. As much as I did not like accounting at that point and was ready to be done and wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, with everything that I was dealing with emotionally, it was very hard to go from having a path that was my own, that had nothing to do with being a mom, to only being a mom inside a home where I knew inside a city that I knew no one. So it was like lonely on top of lonely. It was not an easy transition.
So it's interesting because you kind of hated being a CPA in that transition, and then you're kind of full-time mom, and then that was a difficult pattern as well. So, I guess, how did you navigate that time period, and what advice would you give to working professionals who might say, okay, I want to take a break, and then they take a break from work for a couple of years, and it's just, they're also struggling with that too.
Right. The role is very different. He was my first child, so I had never been a parent, so I didn't know what to expect just in that, much less moving and also dealing with being in the postpartum stuff. So, I did the best I could. I went on a lot of walks. I would talk to friends, back home, or I would call my mom a lot. It was not an easy transition. I loved being a mom. I loved him more than anything in the world. But my inner self, I was very career driven and a very independent person. And then to go from a high pressure job like being a public accountant to being a stay-at-home mom, it took some adjustment. And there were days where I felt like I was going insane because, there's no one, you can't talk to a child like you can talk to an adult. And, you can only watch so many episodes of Thomas the Train before you feel your brain leaking out of your ear. So some days you just grinned and bore it. I don't know how you say that, but, and other days it was the best thing in the world. So definitely, an emotional transition from going to a high power position to being a stay-at-home mom.
So I know at some point here, I think you said about 4 years in, you decided to go off the medication. Do you feel comfortable talking about sort of that transition?
Yeah, it actually wasn't the full 4 years when I went off of that. Things were so bad in my head that they had me pretty medicated. And I didn't realize how medicated until the Sandy Hook shooting, that horrible massacre tragedy. And I'm a very empathetic person. I'm very caring about people and about issues. And I didn't feel anything. I knew it was awful. I knew it was a tragedy. Logically speaking, I knew that, but I felt nothing. And that was when I was like, okay, I am a shell of the person that I used to be, and this isn't okay. So the medicine that I was on worked. It did what it was supposed to. But then I'd had enough. And I think the time that I was on it, it let my brain relax and reset. And so as I started to come off of it, the actually the withdrawals or the reactions that happened as I came off of it, because I did it very methodically, very slowly, the way you're supposed to do it.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of problems coming off of it, not from a withdrawal like I wanted it standpoint, but from physical. I felt like I was being electrocuted in the base of my spine. I had horrible insomnia. My depression returned. It was awful, but I had to get through it. And so I did. I mean, there were days where I was convinced I had done this to myself and I was going to be like that forever. So
What a horrible feeling, as a mother, to go through something like that. And so I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm thankful for you sharing that. Just, if any of our listeners are also, considering that, maybe you did get through that. So what advice would you give to anyone who is maybe considering doing the same thing?
Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep trying. If you feel like things aren't working, then try, keep tweaking things. It's very hard and takes a long time to get medication dialed in. And even if it's not just that, but whatever the protocol or routine it is that you find some relief in, it can take a lot of dial turning and it can take a fair amount of time. It's one of the most frustrating things in the world, dealing with medications that affect the chemicals in your brain, because they're slow to start. And so you have to, you start taking something and it's like, okay, well, now wait a month, and you feel like you're hanging on by a thread and you're like, I can't do this for a month. And then you get to the end of the month and you're like, I don't feel any better. So then they rotate the medicine a little bit. And then you wait 2 more weeks. And then it's like, that didn't do it either. Okay, well, do we increase it again or do we change your medicine? I don't know. Because then we have another 6-week lead in.
Yeah.
So I think it took about a year, honestly, to get all of my meds dialed in. But how I realized they were starting to work was, all of a sudden I would have a thought like, oh, I haven't felt sick to my stomach in like 3 days. Or I haven't thought about the thing that used to like eat at my brain in a week. And it's this very gradual recognition that the things that were paralyzing you before haven't been happening. It's an interesting phenomenon, but those days when I would have those realizations, I was like, oh, thank God. So, I mean, I put the Serenity Prayer on my mirror in my bathroom and I would read it. Sometimes I would look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, you can get through the next 60 seconds. And I would count to 60. Okay, I survived it. Okay. I mean, sometimes it's minute by minute. But you really don't think you're going to make it.
Yeah. Well, Emily, let's take a break and hear from our sponsor. And when we get back, I want to delve into your passion, which is photography, and that, you took the class and it kind of changed your life.
Yep, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bottorff, SVP of Growth at Lawmatics. Here's everything you need to know about Lawmatics. Ready? We are the #1 CRM for law firms of all sizes. We help you win more business, speed up intake, and boost efficiency. We integrate smoothly with your favorite practice management tools like Clio, Smokeball, and Practice Panther. And get this, 95% of Lawmatics users see an increase in revenue, while 91% see an increase in efficiency. Check out Lawmatics at lawmatics.com and mention the Billable Mom during your demo to get 10% off your subscription. That's LAWMATICS.com.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit and talk about the infancy of Pixels by Emily Donohoe, and tell us about that class that sort of inspired you to continue.
Yeah, I bought a DSLR, like so many moms when they have their first baby, and I had always loved scrapbooking and pictures, but I had never been a photographer of any description. So I was like, I need to find something to do. I need a hobby. And I was like, I'm going to go learn more about this camera. And so that was why I signed up. And I had a great teacher. She had been a photographer for a really long time, was also a teacher at a local college. And I mean, literally, I was 3 weeks in and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And so I came home and I sat Michael down at the kitchen table and I said, I want to open a photography studio. That's what I want to do. And he was like, you're going to what? He was like, okay. And I said, I don't know why I have confidence in this. I don't know why I know I can make this work, but I can. I'm telling you, I can. And he was like, all right, like, let's do it. So we started out, and it was only like a month that I had started taking a few pictures. I mean, I had the camera, but I bought a Mac, which I had always been a PC user. I bought, Photoshop, which I'd never touched, Lightroom, never touched. So I had to learn everything. And then I went back to him about a month later and I said, I think I should probably take a small line of credit. And I had, with my business background, and I was like, okay, here's my amortization schedule. This is how long I think it's going to take me to pay this, $10,000 back. And I think I had said like 18 months or something. And 3 weeks later, after I had borrowed the money, I was able to repay all 10,000. And he was like, you do whatever you want from here on out. And so I knew I wanted to be in the higher end. I knew I wanted to be in the fine art atmosphere as opposed to just another person out there competing for the same clients. I was doing it because it was my passion and I loved the art and not just to pay the bills. So I went all in and I went in big.
And so talk to us now about where your business is and how you sort of juggle the balance with work and home.
Well, we've just moved into our third studio, but this is the first studio that we have owned. A year and a half ago, well, I guess it's almost 2 years ago now, we bought a building that was in need of a lot of love, and that's what we gave it. We did a complete overhaul on this building in Mahomet, and it is much more like a gallery than it is it's a working studio, but it's a very pretty and homey working studio with lots of fine art on the walls. We had also moved our home to Mahomet at the same time. So I work 3 minutes from home now, which is fantastic. And helps with the work-life balance for sure. I used to work at home a ton. And so I had no real separation between work and home. I would work until 3 or 4 in the morning often, and then get up at 6:30 and be a mom. And I did that for too long. And I made some missteps. I got out of balance severely, because I was so passionate about the work side that I let everything else fall to the wayside.
If you don't mind, I'd like to delve into that a little bit because I've been interviewing women on this podcast and also just in life and having lunches and talking to women and like, how are you doing it? And I feel like the resounding theme is putting kids to sleep and then working on your business afterwards until the wee hours of the night. And I think I personally have really struggled with this because, I am exhausted. When I put my kids to sleep, I am exhausted. It's like all I can do to hardly just like watch a little bit of a show to have a little bit of me time and then crash for the night. I cannot continue to practice law until midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., etc. But I have colleagues that do or have in the past. I literally had lunch with an attorney. I've not interviewed this person on the podcast, but she said that whenever she had young kids, she routinely would pull an all-nighter at least once a week. And then I'm literally following somebody right now on TikTok, an attorney who goes into her office at 1:30 in the morning. And I guess my question rhetorically is, why does it feel like that's the answer to not sleep, to do this?
I think it's because there are a finite number of hours in the day. Mm-hmm. And we as women as driven women, have a very strong pull in both directions to be an everything mom, wife, whatever, family role, and an amazing business person. Mm-hmm. And both things require a lot of work. So the only thing that can give is sleep.
I know. But, and we had this conversation, like, here I was just Sunday night. This is a very recent event that I decided to forego sleep and check my email until later on in the evening. And I had to make a decision, like, do I want to sleep or do I want to check my email? Because then what happens in the next morning, I'm tired, I'm sluggish, I'm not getting up to work out in the morning. I'm not attacking my day. I'm not attacking my week. And so, it's kind of like whatever that saying is about, robbing Peter to pay Paul or whatever. Yeah. I feel like that's constantly the decisions that I'm making. I mean, do I work or do I go to my kids' tumbling class? And I guess, how did you navigate those decisions during the growth of your business?
I mean, I was out of balance. That's how, I worked till 2 or 3 in the morning and pulled all-nighters regularly. And I did it for almost 3 years, to the point that I thought I had narcolepsy because I was falling asleep in public places. My husband would say that I would come home and, sit down on the couch and I would fall asleep mid-sentence. So I thought there was something wrong with me. And so I went and, got examined by a doctor, and they tested me, did a sleep study. They were like, you don't have narcolepsy, you're REM deprived. I literally was not getting enough sleep. And the more I've learned, even in this last year, has been kind of mind-blowing to me, because doctors have told me for years, if you're stressed out, you need to sleep, you need to have water, you need to do all these things. And it's like, yeah, but not me. Like, I can keep going. I can do whatever it takes to get the job done. And eventually things start to domino. And that is honestly what I've been going through for the last 3 years. Things have started in a domino. I'm about to have my 3rd back surgery. I also had my gallbladder and dual ovarian cysts. All 5 of those surgeries will be within 3 years. I cannot get weight off. All these things have just started to build. And it's like, once that first domino falls, things just start to tumble. And I honestly, at this point in my life, believe it's because I was so intense for so long and thought I knew better, and that I didn't need sleep. I was somehow different. And I wasn't. I'm no different. None of us are any different. The human body needs rest.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, there's so much of what you say that I hear myself, because I feel like, for me personally, I felt like, prior to me having children, like, oh, I'm Superwoman, I could do this all. This is not going to be an issue. And then, I'm not Superwoman at all, not even close. I cannot do it. There's only so many hours in the day. My kids need my attention. I want to spend time with my kids too. And we also need sleep.
Well, and I think too, you and I've always kind of thought the same about us. Anyone in our position that is very driven like this, that has kind of made a name for ourselves in life. I mean, I know that when I first met you and have gotten to know you, I'm like, oh my God, there is nothing this girl cannot do. Like, you are Superwoman. People do look at you like there's nothing you can't handle, like, literally. So then when the game shifts and you all of a sudden feel like you can't do it all, I mean, that's been your persona. That's who you are. That's what people recognize you as. And you've accepted and embraced that. So then all of a sudden you feel like you're failing people.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I'm such an overachiever. I've been an overachiever my entire life. I'm like an A student, A+ student, right? And whenever I don't like feeling like I can't get to my email, or I have some clients waiting on work product, but I think I have come to the realization that I have to have a practice now, and I'm in the process of trying to go through a metamorphosis that supports who I am now at this stage of my life. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you have also had some metamorphosis with your own business too. So do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I mean, you've learned, I think there's this transition period that it sounds like you're kind of really going through right now. And you're realizing you can't do it all. Like, at the beginning, you try to do it all and you're like, no, I can make this happen. And then you start to realize, no, you really can't. And you're letting people down. Like, then you really are failing. not overall, but you are not able to physically maintain that. So you have to pull back a little bit. You just do. You cannot operate at the speed with which you were operating prior to this other massive piece of your life. For me, it's not a child that has that changed mine. Mine's my back. I am full of vim and vigor, and I can move the heaviest thing and I will get it done, whatever it is. And I can't anymore. And saying the phrase, I can't, is not something that my soul and my heart and my mind accept easily. But now on my third surgery and seeing everything that's happened to my back, it's like, I literally can't. And if I do, I could be permanently detrimental to myself, and it's not worth it. Like your client's brief, my client's family pictures, it is not worth my health. It's not worth dying over. Like, it's just not.
No, absolutely not. Hey, let's take a quick break, hear from our sponsor. And then when we get back, Emily, I know that you really have made self-care a priority. Let's talk a little bit about that and sort of what you have done in terms of just having boundaries as well.
This episode of the Billable Mom Podcast is brought to you by Rincker Law PLLC, focusing in food, farm, and family. When I'm not a mother juggling two littles, I'm the principal attorney of Rincker Law, where we believe that strong communities have both strong families and a food, fiber, and agriculture system. At Rincker Law, not only do we do family and matrimonial law, but we also work with entrepreneurs and agriculture producers on business, estate, and succession planning. We are a client-focused, results-driven law practice. At Rincker Law, we also support other billable moms, not only here in the workplace at Rincker Law, but also with clients, helping them live their dreams both in business and at home. For more information, visit us at www.rinkerlaw.com. Cari Rincker, Rincker Law, Food, Farm, and Family.
So, Emily, I'm a big fan of the book Miracle Morning. I think I've read it about 4 times, and I might be inspired to read it the 5th time after this conversation. So let's talk about your morning routine and what you do.
Okay. Well, literally, this has been my routine for about the last year, when I finally realized that everyone wasn't full of it, that I really did need sleep, and that stress really was making things worse. So instead of working into the wee hours of the night, I now go to sleep usually between 10 and 10:30 with my family. I get up between 4:15 and 5 most mornings. And the first things I do when I get up are I read for 20 minutes, either some sort of a self-help or business related, entrepreneurial, something that is feeding my learning brain. I meditate for 10 to 15 minutes. I walk for 2 miles, 30 minutes. What else do I do? Oh, I journal. I keep a wins journal. And so I write down 3 wins that either I had the day before or things that, are coming up for the upcoming day. And I also do a creative exercise. Being in photography, I'm trying to grow my creativity brain. You lose a lot as you get older. Kids have great imaginations. And so I'm trying to tap back into that. So that's kind of my morning before I do anything. So I'm usually awake 3 to 3.5 hours before I leave the house and come to work.
I think that's awesome. And so tell me about how you think that that's sort of like transformed the rest of your day.
Well, I feel accomplished before I even leave the house. And I have just decided, I have just literally, I walk no matter what, whether I want to or not, whether it's raining or not. It's become, and I have made it in my brain such a commitment that it's as much as like brushing my teeth. It doesn't matter if I want to, I need to. So physical movement is good. Being outside is good. Getting vitamin D first thing in the morning. I try not to touch my phone for the first hour, aside from turning my alarm off. But even that I keep in the bathroom. I don't keep it on my nightstand. So, and sometimes it's hard and sometimes I fail. I'm not going to lie. If something pops up, so there are days when I fail and I'm like, damn it. And then I got sucked in and it's, been 15 minutes and I'm like, now I'm behind. But for the most part, if I can just get over that hump and leave the phone alone, I can get through all of that. And I just feel very awake and like my soul is fed, my body feels good, everything's flowing. Make sure I have my water, get a protein shake before I leave for the day. It just starts me off on a really good foot. And I feel like I've set these goals for myself and I'm following them. Like it's showing me that I can follow my own rules and that I am running my life and my life is not running me.
Amen to that. So talk to me about your boundaries. I think that it sounds like you've improved in this category, over the years. So talk to me about what you currently do.
Boundaries. I mean, we don't photograph on the weekends. We keep normal business hours. I mean, it is not that I'm not working on all of, outside of regular hours, but we don't negotiate prices. Like I don't feel the need to justify anything. We offer a very specialized service that not many people offer. Having the accounting background I have, I'm very comfortable in where our pricing comes from. And I know where my soul is and my desire. I mean, I know that we are giving the absolute best to every single client that walks through our door. And so we also know we're not for everyone. And so I'm happy to refer people out. Mm-hmm. We don't in fact, we just had an issue just yesterday where there was a client that was unnecessarily rude to my studio manager for no reason at all. And so I was like, you don't need to talk to this person anymore. I'm going to handle it. And this period of time right now is incredibly difficult for small business. I don't know what's going on with the economy, but this is the toughest year we've had in 10 years. People are not booking like they usually do. And I could really use the money, especially since I'm going to be out with surgery for up to 6 months here really shortly. But you can't talk to us that way. And so I told the client, I'm sorry. I mean, it was very respectful. I was very nice, but I was like, this is not okay.
Mm-hmm. I love that you said that, Emily, because literally just this morning, I had a potential client that got a little rude on the phone with my assistant. And I'm just literally going to send this person a non-engagement letter. We're not a good fit. I mean, I just, at this point in my life and in my career, I don't need to serve people that are not going to be a team player and appreciative of our services. So, and what I have always appreciated about you, Emily, during the course of time that we've known each other, which is about 3.5 years at this point in time.
I can't believe it's been that long.
This is that old, but I love that you know who you are as a business owner and you're not trying to be all things for all people. You're not going out to take wedding pictures, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that you are who you are in the marketplace. And you recommended a book, and I just recently have been listening to the audiobook. 10X is easier than 2X. Yes. And so why don't you just talk a little bit about maybe that book or other business books that you would recommend to other entrepreneurial parents?
10X is easier than 2X literally changed my life. I've never been a big reader because I've always been so tired. As soon as I start to read, I go to sleep. This is the book that started my 20-minute a morning reading habit. And it literally blew the doors off my mind about how to compete in the marketplace and how to excel. It's so obvious, but at the same time, it is apparently a secret because so many people I've referred it to are like, oh my God, how did I not think of this?
Yeah.
So there's a trilogy, I mean, not really, but there's a trio of books written by the same two authors. It is, oh gosh, now I'm totally drawing a blank.
Is it What Not How? Is that it?
Who Not How.
Who Not How.
Who Not How. And you'll have to forgive me. I cannot remember the name of the other one, but it's something very short and simple like that. But this it really helped me reframe how I look at success, how I look at my past failures, how I look at what I should be doing, like what I should be targeting to climb and grow, and made it just seem very much in reach. So I really enjoyed those. I do a lot of podcast listening. I like Mel Robbins. She's always good for a good way to improve your life. I've also been listening to Jay Shetty. I've recently read the book, The 5 Resets, which I highly recommend for any woman entrepreneur. It is about taking back control of your physical self in light of all of the demands of entrepreneurship. So that is a huge one.
And I know we're running a little short on time, but I do want to touch upon one more topic before we leave, Emily. And I feel like you have an awesome, like, work hard, play hard, or relax hard attitude. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we do. My husband and I both work very hard, but then in the summers, we have kind of made that our getaway. We have found a second home feeling place in St. John. And so we go for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks in the summer. We don't go on vacation for that whole time. We both work while we're there, but we definitely relocate and slow the pace of life down. It is so nice to look at turquoise water instead of cornfields, feel the sun on our face. We'll work for, till 11 in the morning, and then we spend the rest of the day hanging out. So if you don't recharge, especially if you're working till God knows when, all night long and whatnot, you have to recharge at some point or you will completely burn out. And so that is the way Michael and I kind of recharge.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I actually just listened to the audiobook Burnout, the book, and then I listened to the audiobook, ironically, when my daughter was not sleeping and I was driving her in the middle of the night. But it talked about the stress cycle and how important it is for us to, close that stress cycle, but then also let our bodies relax. Because if we don't, then, we'll literally get sick. I mean, things will happen to our physical health. And so it's just so important, I feel like, as working women, working parents, just to take time for ourselves. So any last closing thoughts on that note?
No, I guess my parting words would be to take care of yourself before you realize that you have to.
That's a good. So Emily, where can our listeners find you?
You can find us at www.pixelsbyemily.com, and then @pixelsbyemily is our handle for Instagram and Facebook. We are currently doing our fall big magical Santa experience where families get 45 minutes to an hour with Santa privately. And we have thought of every single detail. It's kind of the Disney World of Christmas. So that's what you'll see on our feeds big time right now. But that's the best way to get us.
And I can vouch that I feel like you're so talented with photography, also the editing there. I mean, it's almost like these pictures are truly a work of art. So I just wanted to just share that as well. So thank you, Emily. I so appreciate your time and your candor here on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Billable Mom. At The Billable Mom, we don't pretend to have the answers, but instead have all the questions. Please find us on social media and join the conversation at The Billable Mom on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Pinterest, and YouTube. We also have a Facebook group where like-minded Billable Moms find solidarity and provide a resource to one another. You can learn more about the Billable Mom and our picks for juggling work and motherhood at www.thebillablemom.com. You can also connect with Cari Rincker directly on social media at Cari Rincker. Until next time, let's calm the chaos 6 minutes at a time.